Welcome to New Game Plus. You're listening to a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game, and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
And I'm Nolan.
And this is episode 67. Nolan?
What?
Kenny?
Hey.
First of all, did both of you grow up with Nickelodeon cartoons in your life?
I sure did. All the time.
Somewhat. Okay. Most of my fondest Nickelodeon memories aren't cartoon based.
I actually didn't like Disney.
Game show?
Yeah, there was the game show with the slime that I watched all the time. And there was Salucha Shorts some of those others. Clarissa Explains It All. A bunch of other shows like that I kind of remember, but I don't remember many of the cartoons themselves.
Yeah, I think most fans would agree that Nickelodeon probably hit their prime in the 90s. I know they existed in the 80s, and they're still producing content today, I think. But my question for you as we start this episode is, what was one or two of the Nickelodeon cartoons that you enjoyed most as a kid, and why?
Okay, I think I have mine immediately when you asked that. Rocko's Modern Life was one of them. It's about this, gosh, what is he?
It's Rocko.
He's an animal of some sort.
A marsupial. I mean,
he's some sort of mammal, I think, and it's really not, it's kind of hard to explain what it's about. It was just about some animals that live in this town. And I really did like the Lost Temple show. What is it called?
Legends of the Lost Temple, but that's not a cartoon.
Oh, you want cartoon only?
Yeah, specific.
Okay, so then in that case, Hey Arnold was another good one for me. I liked Hey Arnold.
Now, was SpongeBob not in your era?
SpongeBob is recent.
Yeah, it was.
No, it's not. It was. I think it was in my brother and Nolan. And
it was. But I was a little too old to watch it, but not really, because it's got a lot of adult humor in it. It's really. You can laugh at it if you're not a child. So I did watch SpongeBob.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it's still going today. Just
Kenny?
memes galore.
I don't know. Can I answer the opposite of that question? I really actively disliked the Rugrats.
Why?
You weren't allowed to watch it because they
bugged me.
Because they were rude to their parents.
That doesn't make any sense, Kenny.
Walking around in diapers, it was just
What? That's what babies do.
I think I was just really pretentious, even as a kid.
Oh, yeah,
and it didn't do anything for me.
So, did you not grow up watching Nickelodeon shows, really?
I don't feel like I watched Nickelodeon much. Not their cartoons. I watched their other stuff.
Yeah?
I mean, there's a clear segue here that I'm avoiding so that you can do your segue.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But clearly, one of the better shows that they had was Doug, for sure.
Well, sorry. I watched Rugrats, and it was fine. Babies in diapers doesn't blow my mind.
That's fine. I don't know what Kenny's doing.
Hey Arnold, football head, right?
Great one.
Cat Dog.
Yeah, it was okay.
A few of these really were after my time.
Cat Dog was weird.
Take a cat and take a dog and stick their bodies together.
Great show.
That's what the show was.
I like the premise. I'll give you
that. Another 90s show that had a dog in it was Doug.
That's true.
I did like Doug too. That was a good one.
Doug was a good one. And I think it appealed to a lot of people because it had this quirky cast that was surrounding this 11-and-a-half-year-old boy named Douglas Yancey Funny in a highly successful Nickelodeon classic, Doug, from which the game that we played this week derived from.
Doug's Big Game. Well named.
Yeah, they got really creative with the name, but it's about this 90s show. It was released in 2000, and so the people behind it are known for making kids shows and making them into games for some reason. So it's two companies. New Kid Company is who published the game, and their catalog is very childish. So they do have Winnie the Pooh game on the N64, Tom and Jerry on the N64. I haven't heard of them other.
Calling Tom and Jerry childish
It's a great show. It's a kids show, though, Kenny. It's a cartoon.
It's a great show. Oh, I know.
other company that developed it is called Imagine Engine, and they also have a bunch of games that were just like TV shows. Puss in Boots is in there somewhere. So not really huge team behind the game. It came out for the Game Boy Color, which I was a huge fan of. I had lots of Game Boy Color games. And the premise is very simple. You kind of just play an episode of Doug. I'd say there's 2 episodes in the game. There's like 2 different sections of the game that have a point to them. Both of them being you have to find Patti Mayonnnaise.
Which, for the record, is a great name, even if it's a terrible condiment.
All of their names are,
Doug Funny,
Skeeter, and everybody's name is ridiculous.
I mean, we don't need to derail what we're talking about, but it is a terrible condiment. It's the worst thing ever.
It's really good.
Anyways, you're looking for Patti Mayonnnaise. She said to meet in the park, and she's not there. Oh no! So you go and ask all of the characters from the show and do little side quests and mini games for them. There's some Quailman action in there. If you
side quests,
huh?
I don't know if you can even call them side quests.
I don't think I'd call them quests at all.
The primary portion of the game.
Yeah, I mean they're not. You're not doing them for additional stuff. Like you're doing it to complete the game.
You have to do them.
Right.
There's even some Quailman action.
They feel like a side quest, but this is the content of the game. It's
if
the
you
primary
know what that
story.
Is.
So I feel like I completely derailed you, Nolan. What are you saying?
That's the game. You are kind of, it's a 2D side scroller basically that you can fast travel, I guess you'd call it, to different areas in the town. There's like the school, the park, and his house and other places that you have to go to like find items and talk to people. So it's really it's like really heavily text-based. You do a lot of dialogue, and you're just trying to find Patti.
Yeah, and let's take a step back. For those of you that do not know what Doug is, or you've never watched Doug, it was a Nickelodeon show that was it was produced by obviously Nickelodeon. Later, it was purchased or acquired by Disney, and the original run was from 91 to 94. Disney acquired the series in 96. They made some changes and rebooted the series under the terrible title Brand Spanking New Doug, and then quickly realized that was a terrible name and changed it to Disney's Doug in 1998. But it really is just this.
It really is such a terrible name.
It's this middle school boy who's trying to deal with his anxieties and frustrations of his middle school life and his love for this girl and him being constantly bullied, and all while the way that he deals with all of that is by wearing underwear over his pants and tying a belt to his head and calling himself Quailman.
Normal stuff.
Yeah. I
mean,
way we all
middle
school boy, maybe, and he drew comics, and so I don't know. It was inspiring for a lot of elementary and middle school people that really had trouble finding their place. Yeah. I think it speaks well to the awkwardness of that stage.
And also the creator of the show had a purpose behind the episodes. He wanted them to have a moral to the story. It wasn't just a nonsensical show like SpongeBob. He wanted it to be helpful to kids. So that was their interpretation of helpful was Quailman.
And Quailman does make an appearance in this game.
Yeah,
we don't talk about it just for the sake of referencing the TV show. In fact, the highest energy, most action-packed parts of Doug's Big Game. That's true. That is objectively a true fact.
High energy?
The most of the game. I'm not saying that they were high energy, but the couple of parts of the game that actually feel at all like a video game are when Doug puts on his Quailman persona and goes into his imagination or wherever it is that he goes and does battle with various, obstacles in his little important quest of finding a girl.
Yeah, so if you don't know the game or the show, then it's the game's really pointless to you. I think, because
the game's really pointless even if you do know the show.
Okay, we'll get into
that.
Yeah, and so Quellman is some of the segments within the gameplay of where you are. It's kind of your boss battles, if you can say that.
Right.
So where Doug kind of goes into his fanciful reimagining or retelling of a conversation, but done through like this battle. And so maybe his arch enemy it turns into this like huge green dinosaur that you have to destroy. And so Quellman has these Quell bullets. I don't remember what they're called. Which Quell eyes. That's what it is. And then
makes no sense.
Which I didn't even find out until like the last. You have to do 3 battles with each mission that you're doing. I didn't learn until the last battle that I didn't have to suicide after losing all my bullets, but that if I pressed A and B at the same time, that I could switch to Quell Dog and have full bullets to use. Did you guys know that?
Not the first time I played.
Okay.
Because I was playing blind, and there's nothing that would tell you to ever do that whatsoever.
So no, I didn't.
But then I read up on the game some and realized it was something I could do, and went back and checked that out.
Yeah.
So just so everybody understands, because I don't even know, from what Nolan said earlier, it makes me feel like he might not even have captured the concept of this game. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's actually a pretty sweet concept. I've got to admit that. There are a dozen or more of these what you would call maybe mini games, and you've got to complete 3 of them to beat the game. And so most likely all 3 of us had a different experience altogether.
I don't think there's actually that many of the mini games themselves, from my understanding. There's that many like possible like storyline plot drivers, but you only have 4 or 5 or 6 actual like enemies that you fight.
Well, yeah, I mean,
a bunch of the different stories lead you to the same
boss fight,
mini game boss fight.
So you mean like the little quest, whatever, that you have to go on to progress? Like one of mine being I had to find Roger's keys for him. That might not.
I never had to do that.
Okay,
so if you play the game again,
you'd
get a different set of quests.
Yeah, I did not realize that, but
so let's do this. Where can you recall the first time you played? Where did you start your game?
Yeah, I started in the park, I believe. Yeah, in the park.
I don't remember that first playthrough. I was confused and lost and running around. I know I ended up starting a number of different places because early on I realized that there was some of that replayability going on, and I wanted to see some of the different things going on, so I would like play through and get to one and then start it again and see. So I saw kind of a whole variety of things.
Okay. I started right outside of Doug's house, which is different than yours, Nolan. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and so let me kind of I'll walk you through my 3, and we'll see if any of these overlap. Yeah, Kenny, there's only like, 4, 5, 6 bosses, but still the way that they get you to a particular boss, there might be 3 different ways to do that.
Yeah, so, there's a bunch. I think you're right. There's over a dozen like storylines you can play through. Yeah,
so this is what I did. Number 1, I had to... but the whole thing is you're trying to meet up with Patti for a date. Like, I think that's all the way through, right?
Right. That story stays the same.
Okay.
Yes.
To my understanding, all the time.
So I started right outside of Doug's house and was told that Patti might be at a park. I went to the park, and then I had to help someone wrangle sheep because Patti was helping to wrangle sheep as well. So if I found the last sheep, and there's a maze on the left side of the park and on the right side of the park, and after I wrangled the 3 or 4 sheep, I was supposed to find Patti. There was no Patti. So then the second thing was BB, one of our friends, who I think is like a purple girl. Is that what color she is? I don't know. They're all different colors. She was having a party, and so she was sending out party invitations. She needed to get one to Patti, so I offered to take her invitations and deliver them. So I delivered them to 3 different people at 3 different places. Never found Patti to deliver hers. And then finally, I get a call from home saying my mom wants me home immediately. So I rush home. Mom's not there. Judy, my sister, wanted me back home to go and collect some of her belongings left all throughout town. And after I collected all of those, Judy's last item was in the same room that Patti was. And when I found her, I think our endings are probably going to be different too. She said, Doug, our date is for tomorrow. And Doug was like, oh yeah, I forgot. And that was the end.
Oh my goodness.
For real?
That's almost as bad as the whole thing being a dream.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
So,
rough.
do any of you did you have any of those, or was yours completely different?
Mine was
Nolan, go
complete.
through yours.
Okay, I started off with helping Roger, the bully, find his keys, house keys, I think, and I had to go to the school and ask around where they were. They were in the school. So when I got them and brought them back to him, he was like, oh, no, it was the keys for his limousine. He was like, he promised to give you a ride to meet Patty in his limo when you bring him his keys. And then when you bring them, he's like, psych. And then you fight him as Quail Man. And he turns into a lizard, and you fight him. And then after that, you decide to call Skeeter to help find Patty, and he is at the Lucky Duck Park. So I went there, and then this toad starts talking to you, and I find myself in space shooting aliens. Another mini game. It didn't even explain why that happened.
Yeah, I never had that.
And then after that, I think I may have had the same thing that you had with BB. I did the maze, the labyrinth thingy.
I didn't do the maze with BB though. I did that for the sheep.
Oh, well, maybe this is a purple girl with purple hair.
Yeah, no, it might be BB. There's probably
Purple
4
girl.
different things you have to do for BB.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was with BB in the maze, and then you find Patty, and then she's like, "Oh, I was out getting you a surprise," and he goes, "What? A surprise?" And she got him the new Beats CD. You know the band that he's into? They're called the Beats. The album was called the What album.
Nice. So we played a totally different game.
I didn't know that was going on.
But it's pretty much still exactly the same game.
Yeah, it does. I don't think it's cool. I think it's just like
no, it's very cool, Kenny. Not that they executed it well, but that's a great idea.
Yeah,
like it allows for some actual replay value. Kenny, walk us through one of yours. If you can't remember, just do it for the sake of we're actually recording a podcast right now, so you need some kind of content.
Yeah, no, I'll walk you through some of the memorable ones because I like jumped around and because I wanted to see some of the different story. That was some of the intrigue of the game for me. I don't know. It was so short, that it was crazy. I liked making one of your teachers go outside to yodel. That was a pretty classy distraction. You had to get into the detention hall, and he was guarding the door, and you had to convince him that somebody was outside yodeling, and he needed to go yodel with him. That was pretty rad. I think at one point we went fishing, and that was fun. And then had and
that was fun.
Nolan, your scoffing is cracking me up. I saw a couple of the ones at some point that you guys mentioned. I think my favorite ones were the ones that were the teacher ones that led to the fight against him. Did you guys have him at all? Where you had to shoot him?
Yeah, you had to shoot his glasses.
In the glasses.
Yeah, I did in my second playthrough.
No. I don't know why I like that one so much.
But here's the thing. I did it twice because I thought it was a separate episode or whatever you want to call it. I didn't know that it was randomizing me every time I hit start. I thought it was the second. So that's cool. But yeah, I did fight that guy too.
You admitted it. You just said it's cool and you can't take it back.
You can't.
I'll take it back later.
We're going to hold you to it.
I'll take it back.
We're going to hold you to it. Nolan likes this game a lot.
Yeah, Nolan does give this cool status, so...
Spoilers.
Let's talk about how it's aged.
Alright, so the Game Boy Color. Those games, to me, have very distinct characteristics. Similar to how I view N64 games or even Genesis games have a certain feel and look to them. And so the Game Boy Color is kind of a dark era in handheld gaming. There are some great games. I played most of them. The Oracle games, the Zelda Oracle games are amazing. There's actually
Pokemon games, right?
No, actually, they worked on a Game Boy Color, but I don't think they were actually color titles. They just had the original Game Boy and then Game Boy Advance games. Okay. But and there were some Tony Hawk games that were actually pretty fun on the Game Boy Color, but like, I don't know. I when I go back to play them, there's something that's so off about them, and I'm gonna need you guys' help to point out what that is. But I just felt the age very hard.
I didn't have a Game Boy Color. I had the original Game Boy.
Yeah,
and the Sega Game Gear. Like, those were my handheld game systems. My brother may have had a Game Boy Color, and I understand what you're trying to say. It's hard to explain unless you have one in your hand, but there is something that just seems off in all of the games.
And I had...
Are you talking like visually, or just like the kind of games that were created for that system? Like
both. Visually,
yeah, but visually,
certainly, visually, it's very rough. Like, I had pretty much every handheld Nintendo console. I think I have. I've also had Game Gear, and so I actually think Game Boy Color is worse than like the original Game Boy, because
interesting.
They were like pushing the capabilities of the Game Boy Color, what the color system, like you could see color on it. But then, like, just simplicity of Tetris or Alleyway is more visually appealing to look at than something like this.
Interesting. I actually thought one of this game's, in my perspective, few good points was the look of it. Like, it was simple. It was plain. It clearly was being catered to a very young audience, both in look and feel, but like, the fact that they were able to get some familiar characters, to get pretty close to nailing their look, and to have a bright, fun, moving kind of world, it was very, very simple. It needed more depth, but like the look itself, I was like, okay. Now, there were a few like animation choices they made that drove me crazy. When you walked around, what it did to Doug's face to try and make it look like he was moving, it literally was like his eyes and mouth were like at different points in his head and moving up and down, and that drove me absolutely crazy. So there were some like visual animation things that I didn't like, but I actually thought for what the game was trying to be, that the visuals were okay.
Yeah, I thought the visuals were rough. Here's my thing. Sometimes when we come to age, sure, we could pick out some things that aged poorly about it, but this is, for me, is just another example of a game that was just bad to begin with. Like, sure, it's aged. There are some like the music kind of hurts your ears. The music is
not kind of.
It's like piercing of a game that was just bad to begin with.
It's probably the worst video game music I've ever listened to.
Well, you don't even have the Doug music.
It's bad. It's like,
yeah, the one appeal of Doug is getting to sing the theme song with it, and it's so catchy.
You don't have it.
That wasn't
and
there.
I was pumped to get to hear this. Not in the game at all.
But in the
music they replaced it with was short. It was repetitive. It was loud. It was piercing. I literally wrote down worst, most repetitive music ever.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
It was really hard to listen to, and like the whole time I was trying to pick out a familiar melody to it because I know the music, and it's not there. It's a fake out. It's just music for music's sake, and it's annoying.
Yeah,
you could tell that like they had the rights to make the game, but then they had like none of the, I don't know, content
they weren't Doug
provided
fans,
for them. Yeah, you could tell even the animation, like that they'd redone it itself to emulate it, and though the characters looked very, very close and they were familiar characters, which is fun if you're a fan of the show, it didn't feel quite right. You didn't get the theme music at all. There was no spoken dialogue, which Game Boy Color, like, that wasn't even really an option.
No.
But everything was text-based, so you didn't get voices, and that's a huge part of like characters and connection with them. I don't know.
It came out in 2000. That was 17 years ago. Like, we're not even at the 20-year mark. We're not. There are games that far surpass this that came out 10 years prior to this one and did everything that it did but better.
And like, we have to be fair.
No, we don't.
We are. No, we are being fair.
I know, we're being very fair, but like, we have to remember that this was a game designed for a very, very young audience.
Yeah, based on who made it, for sure.
It was really poorly done, even with that in mind.
Yeah, like the people who made it, absolutely, that's their goal. That's what their company did. But kids would have hated this game. Like, if I would have played this as a kid, fan of the show, no.
Yeah, it wouldn't have even been a good fan service.
It's not fun.
Like some things that are fan services aren't good for the majority
Right.
audience, but they still do something for the audience that really loves the game or loves the movie or loves the show. This doesn't even do that. So I just think they missed it all the way around, especially in regards to age, but in regards to most every aspect of the game. So we'll bring that all together in our summary section and determine whether or not we give this game our vote for New Game Plus status.
This may be one of the most obvious things that we've ever done.
There's been more obvious.
I think there's more obvious.
But I mean, it's fairly obvious. Like there are some things that don't need video games. Doug, the television show, is one of those things.
Yes.
It was
I would have loved a good Doug title.
No,
A
why?
good Doug title.
No,
It doesn't need it.
No, nothing needs it. That's like TV or movies. Anytime they do the remake, it's just a money grab, almost across the board.
But
like, just because they did it really poorly doesn't mean they couldn't have done it really great.
No,
Doug is fun. He would have been a very fun one to do if they'd done it well.
You have to consider the show. That show's not like amazing.
It's a story.
It's an amazing show.
It's a nostalgic show for those who grew up with it. Outside of that, it's not an amazing show. It doesn't need a game. It's kind of crappy.
They could have leaned on exactly the same strengths.
Absolutely.
I just think
this had more potential to be a good game. No, I take it back. I was about to say something untrue.
Yeah.
Here.
I was about to compare it to Home Alone, but that has better plot device
Home Alone was
for
dope.
becoming a game.
Playing this game will taint your beloved memories with
That's probably true.
of a fun show with a terrible video game. And so my advice is to skip this game, to not even consider it again, and to not even listen to this episode. I do not give my
Go
vote.
back and
unsubscribe.
27 minutes of your life just so that you don't accidentally replace a good memory of Doug with a poor one.
So I say no. Kenny?
Yeah, I try to be super, super objective. Like, this was a game for literally like little kids, like small
infants,
children.
like
I would hand it to like a 3 or 4 year old, kind of young. Like, the fact that it was text based made it feel like it might have been too advanced for its audience, kind of young. That being the case, it was still bad. The lack of clarity on what you're supposed to do and why, the fact that they had a very limited number of mini bosses, and even though they did this kind of fun idea of, hey, let's have this replayable world where it feels sort of fresh every time, but then having the same mini bosses where it's really still feels repetitive and you could tell that it was kind of canned, that even though that idea is fun, they didn't pull it off. The fact that when you're fighting bosses, if you die, there's no punishment, you just start the boss fight over. Like, completely, the fact that it's almost completely text-based. Like, we whined last week about how much our really great game needed more playability time and less, like, visual story time. This falls into the same thing. It's like Doug's big game of, like, text interfaces. I don't know.
So all that being said, you do.
All that being said, it's a very, very, very terrible game, and it's not worth your time, and avoid it. And if you do play it for some reason, turn your headphones off first.
Yeah, like put on some Spotify or something.
Turn off your headphones and then turn off the game and then do something else entirely.
Yeah.
Play the soundtrack to Doug, like the intro soundtrack that's like 30 seconds long. Boot this game up while that's playing with your game muted, and then when that soundtrack intro is done, turn the game off.
All right, Nolan, it's up to you.
I don't have anything else to contribute. It's been said. In short, it should not have been made. Doug didn't need a game. He didn't need a big game. And there's many shows and movies that don't need games that we'll probably play on this podcast, but every time, I guarantee you, they will suck, with the exception of like two games, Lion King being one.
And some of our worst games that we've played have been remakes. Jurassic Park, Home Alone, a number of those others have been games that we try and just milk the popularity of something and throw a terrible game on, and that's frustrating.
If they were going to make a Doug game, it should have been only Quailman, and it should have been a platformer. That's the best they could have done. Outside of that, it doesn't work.
We received some thoughts from our faithful viewers this week. From one of our newest viewers, contacted us via email, Jan. Jan, you said, Jan? I've never seen much of Doug's cartoon. Well, not enough to recognize any elements of the cartoon in the game. I started the game, and the music is not that special and quite repetitive. I thought the quests were not very interesting, so apparently you need to look for Patti. After a while, you need to search for keys. Maybe I was spoiled by playing Chrono Trigger last week because I'm also catching up on your previous episodes.
Ooh.
I mean, they're comparable games, but, you know.
Oh, my goodness. I want to punch you in the face just for suggesting that.
So in a nutshell, it didn't grab my attention enough to keep playing it. Maybe it's more of a kid's game or more of a game for people that are a fan of the show. Can't wait to find out what game you'll be playing next. Keep up the great podcast. Hopefully I can find the time to send in my thoughts to you guys regularly. Kind regards.
Thanks, Jen. Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for the thought.
Yeah, they have really similar soundtracks.
Oh, my goodness.
Dylan sent in an email. He actually sent in 2 emails. I'm going to try to just grab a few comments from both of those. To start, I beat this game in 45 minutes. As I was playing, I kept thinking to myself, how long can this game be? And once I finished, I was disappointed with how short it was. It had no chance of success with me, apparently. Here are some positive aspects of the game. There was a world view where you could go into any of 5 specific places. It's a novel concept, but other games did it much better. The tasks were randomized, and you could end up with a different combination of tasks each time, which was good. This could have been enhanced had each time you played a different set of tasks. The game would build and grow, but that didn't happen. You could also start in random places. Once again, cool, but not quite quality. And then he added a few negatives, saying this game lacked story as it had one of the most simplistic stories ever. I hated the forest area or whatever it was. Each location only had a couple places to go in it, but much extra wasted space.
Well said.
He's right.
I legitimately think
you throw the Doug theme music in there. You fix some of the dialogue or find a way to actually not make that terrible. You put a mini boss that matches each story, not just 4 or 5 of them, but literally a replayable one. You have the game remember which ones you've done and always give you a fresh quest, and you don't start with the same overarching story every time. Take it in context as a kid's game and remember what it was released for, and it's sort of a meh title.
I agree. If you change the game completely, it would be a decent title. If you change every element about the game. I mean, we agree with you 100%, Dylan. Thank you. And then finally, Holden sent us an email, and he said, okay, obviously this game isn't getting approved because it's pretty bad. However, I can see why this game was made. It's simply a filler game. Was it fun? No. Was it good? No, but it was easy enough to sit down, play, and beat rather quickly. I mean, I literally played this game when someone left to pick up lunch and had beaten it before they got back. This game wasn't meant to be a hit. I think it was one of those games that was a filler for people who were waiting on bigger titles to hit the market. Overall, though, it was just bad. It's playable, but not playable enough to prefer someone to play it, in my opinion.
I wonder if he means filler for another Doug game or a filler.
No, I think he just means in general. I mean, there are some of those games, right, especially on the handheld market that weren't ever going to be AAA titles or anything like that. They were just going to be something that was a fun, quick play.
And in that era, you weren't going to open up your phone and download Candy Crush if you've got 40 minutes to kill. You have what you have. You either have some games to play or you don't. And so I guess you could argue it in that way.
Yeah.
Doesn't fix it, though.
Either way, we greatly appreciate all of your thoughts this week.
Absolutely.
If you are a viewer of this show and you would love us to highlight your thoughts on a particular game that we're playing that week, feel free to send it in at ngppodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us, find us on social media, and we'd love to include your thoughts as a part of next week's show.
Yes.
It is that part of the episode, though, that we select a new Kenny.
Yeah, redemption.
I'm on board with Kenny this time.
Especially
I'm excited
after a bad game.
Yeah, after that, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Right,
give me
what if it's another
fresh.
bad game?
It's okay. It's not going to be Doug's big
game.
game, so I'm okay with a bad game.
All right, we've got a Retro Master list that you, our viewers, have suggested games for, and it is a quite robust list, but it is incomplete. So feel free to check that out. Links on our social media, and you can add any games that 15 years old or older to that list, and then it might be the next game that we play. For now, I'm going to spin the randomizer and find out what game we're going to be playing for the next 7 days, and it is...
Better not be another TV show or something.
I can always tell when you're not hyped, Dustin.
It is a game that came out in 1991 by Interplay Entertainment in partnership with Brainstorm, because it was something that was to inspire and not only give you entertainment value, but great knowledge. It is called Mario Teaches Typing.
Ooh.
Interesting. Here's what I have a feeling is going to happen. I have a feeling we're going to get really competitive this week for some reason.
On. Is this about like typing words fast and that makes Mario
I'm sure if it's like any
no.
other typing game, I'm sure it like will record your typing speed at some point.
What system was it on?
It has
Because
to.
like
it's on the computer.
Oh.
Yeah,
if it's words per minute, y'all are going down.
Oh no, we're not.
Yes, you are.
Girl. You work on
look at my keyboard.
I know your keyboard is one of those mechanical ones that's like chuck chuck chuck. It sounds good, but it doesn't move swift.
Oh yes, it does.
I will take all of y'all. Let's go right now.
I've heard of this game.
If this game actually does record that, you, our viewers, get yourself a high score. No cheating. Accurately record your words per minute or whatever. Email us. Post it to Twitter. Let's see who is the king of being taught how to type.
It's not me.
By Mario.
I'll talk, but I am excited because I've always heard of this game and I've never played it. So
I'm pretty sure this is one that was in our like computer labs at school growing up.
I was a Mavis guy.
I spent some time on. Yeah.
It's going to be special. I'm excited because it is Mario, so it's a beloved character and franchise.
Yeah.
We'll see if the typing game holds up.
Yeah.
As always, you can find us on our social media, Facebook and Twitter, NGP Podcast. You can email us, ngppodcast@gmail.com. As always, listen directly on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Music, or any other podcast provider. Make sure you subscribe so you are the first to get new NGP episodes. If you would like to find out about additional content that we are producing on a regular basis, almost weekly, visit us at patreon.com/NGP podcast. Patreon.com/NGP podcast, and you can find out how to become a closer family member than even now. We've got a new Patreon supporter this week.
Nice.
And that is one of those that emailed us this week, Holden. He became one of our supporters.
Oh man, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks for your support.
Dude.
Holden,
and thanks to all of our other patrons as well. You guys continue to help us make quality content about old games, and especially big thanks to our producers, Bradley and Zion. You guys are great. Everybody, though, who participates in the show by just listening and playing along, playing along, and emailing us, or any other variety of interaction. You guys really are our favorite. So thanks.
Absolutely. Join us next week as we play Mario Teaches Typing. Until then, I'm Dustin.
I'm Kenny.
I'm installing right now.
I'm uninstalling Doug's Big Game. And this has been New Game Plus.
Peace.